We'll call the meeting of the Ascension Parish Council July 5th to order. We'll ask Ms. Fontenot if she'll lead us in the invocation, followed by the pledge.
Father, we do honor you tonight and give you praise. We thank you for the many blessings that we have experienced in these United States as we celebrate our freedom on July the 4th. We thank you for every soldier that has died on behalf of freedom. We thank you for our soldiers that are abroad now, protecting us and getting the freedom for others to enjoy the same freedoms that we do. We thank you for the firemen that are here tonight, Father, that volunteer their services for this parish. Father, we just ask tonight that you give us wisdom, that you give us the courage to do the right thing, and that you provide everything this parish needs to provide for the health, safety, and well-being of the citizens here. Father, as always, we thank you that you secure our borders and our gates with your glory. In Jesus' name we thank you. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Suzanne, Mr. Thompson, and Mr. McConnell are both absent with excuse. We'll move now to agenda item number 3, emergency items or any chair additions. I do not have any additions before me. Agenda item 4, public comment period. If you want to comment on any agenda items, please sign with the public speaking card and you will be allowed to speak 3 minutes. Please note the agenda item you'd like to speak on. We'll move now to presentations. We don't have any tonight. Did I miss anybody with anything? Number 6, the Parish President report. Parish President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. The administration, we hope you had a wonderful 4th. And appreciate Ms. Fontenot's prayer and great blessings that we have enjoyed in our nation since 1776. And just want to mention one thing. We pulled a presentation card. Council on Aging, Ms. Gayron, is retired, and she wanted to receive it the other day at a retirement function, I think last Thursday, instead of coming before the meeting tonight. But Ms. Gayron has retired and has moved on after many, many years as director of our Council on Aging. So we want to thank her on behalf of the administration and the council for her service. I think it was 28 years that she's been in that capacity. Now, we recently met with the Secretary of Environmental Quality in the state, Mr. Mike McDaniel. He met with the parish presidents, and he met with the Metropolitan Planning Organization, County Region Planning Commission of our area about air quality issues. And I guess which is customary with the federal government at times, it seems standards change as we are about to reach success in one area. They start changing the rules. And so I hope each member of the council has received some information from DEQ. Just a quick synopsis of, as I understand it, and this is still developing, but you may recall in 2005, we had a 1-hour standard that was the Clean Air Act in our community. We were the Baton Rouge area was the community that was out of compliance with ozone. And we finally reached that 1-hour standard, the benchmark, January of this year. And lo and behold, June of last year, they changed to an 8-hour standard. And we've been in the process of trying to implement that with industry and local government and others in the environmental community as well to reach that. And now they're telling us that they're going to become even more stringent, or they're trying to, before we have reached the 8-hour standard. So those of you who are in the industry will probably be asked to have some input on this. The Secretary has asked that the 5 parish presidents and the mayors and others within the Baton Rouge area reconstitute or reactivate a group called the Clean Air Coalition that had helped a few years ago. and our parish has been asked to contribute $10,000 to $20,000 to that organization to help in this regard, and we'll get you some more information on that. So we all need to be aware of that, because obviously they could have very significant impacts in our parish, and I think all of us want clean air and clean water and those quality of life issues, but at the same time it has to be a reasonable balance there. So we have a high concentration of industry between Mobile and Houston. So this is going to become a critical issue, it looks like, in the next few months. And what the Environmental Protection Agency at the federal level will end up formulating as new rules. And so we'll have several areas in our state who have been in compliance now, who probably will not be in compliance with some of these standards from 8-hour level, and then certainly will not be in compliance with a new, more stringent standard if that becomes the law of the land. And so that's a brief report on that. We'll share more with you as we get that information, but this group will become active in the next few weeks. Secondly, the Baton Rouge Loop Authority was created. I mentioned this to you, but some more work has been done in the last few weeks. This will probably be 100% private money, or mostly private money, to build this if it becomes a reality. Within the next year, we should know. Each parish has been asked to appoint some people to serve on a technical advisor committee and a stakeholder advisor committee. And I've asked Mr. Turner and Mr. Ziegler to represent our parish on this 5-parish committee to work with the 5 parish presidents and the consultants that the Capital Region Planning Commission recently hired, with the first $2 million of that money coming from the East Baton Rouge Parish government, for an implementation business plan at the end of the year to see how we could build this loop. In addition, we've been asked to appoint 4 people to a stakeholders commission in the areas of education, citizenship, and business, economic development community. So I've asked for Mr. Tommy Kirks to serve there, who's over our Ascension Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Donald Sanger has agreed to serve from the educational side. And we're still working on another one. And we also, one other person has agreed to work in that capacity as a volunteer, with the anticipation that this group would only meet about quarterly to provide feedback to the consultants and those who are working on this project in the next year. Any questions about either one of those 2 issues before I go to the legislative update? If any of you have a name of someone you think that would be good to serve on that stakeholders committee, please let me know. As most of us realize by now, the legislative session for long-term infrastructure development may have been termed not that successful. Having spoke with most of our legislative delegation today. However, one positive thing that did happen, with about $600 million of the surplus money that the state budget had this year, is a one-time commitment, and I don't think the governor's going to veto it, of $600 million for road money. However, it will be divided amongst 64 parishes based upon the priority system that DOTD currently has in place. Also within the 25-year transportation improvement plan as found in each metropolitan planning organization to state those areas that have that urbanized system. And so that is some positive news, but it's just one time. The effort to permanently, or at least for a few years, dedicate $450 million of additional revenue stream to roads, state roads, capacity projects especially, did not get out of the Senate. It passed the House. Representative Corsair and Senator Armadale were successful in getting it out of the Senate Finance Committee. It passed, one bill passed 100-0 in the House, and it was filibustered in the Senate. And a vote was not taken the last day on that extra $450 million to be dedicated on a long-term basis for infrastructure work. And so that was a negative that occurred the last day of the session last Thursday. But we do have the good news that $600 million, and I guess 64 parishes will all be trying to get that money coming to our parishes where we think it's really needed the most. Any questions about that brief legislative update? Obviously, there's a lot of other things in there. We'll be giving you a full report shortly on House Bill 1, which is the operational budget of the state, House Bill 2, which is the capital improvement budget of the state, and House Bill 3, which is the funding mechanism to fund House Bill 2. And legislative staff members are working on that with a couple of our staff members to make sure that, and of course the governor, I think, still has 2 more weeks. So we're kind of waiting to her time has passed for vetoes to make sure what stays in and what may be taken out, because she does have line item veto authority in many areas. So that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you, Parish President. Any questions, Parish President? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item number 7, the consent agenda. Adopt the regular council minutes of June 7th.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilman Jerry Savoy. Any discussion? Any opposition? So moved. Move now to committee reports. We'll move, if you'll notice, I had Ms. Suzanne trim the committee reports. If you did not have anything to report, I did not essentially put the subtitle down on your committee. If you'd like to say something, I certainly will acknowledge you to at least inform the public of a meeting that you may want to have. We'll go to number 8, the Transportation Committee, Ms. Cheryl Fontenot.
Thank you, Councilman Valentine. The Transportation Committee did not meet. However, we did get a phone call saying that a contract that we've been waiting on was ready to do with the state. And it's very important that this contract get done. So we went ahead and passed it through to this body for approval. Mr. Bob will give you an update on it. Larry, I'm assuming that it went through legal. Ricky, you had it? Okay, and everything's okay with it from legal standpoint. Mr. Bob will give you the update on it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Chairman Valentine, President Hughes, excuse me, members of council, I'm Bob Turner, Director of Public Works. As Councilwoman Fontenot told you, this is kind of a long-awaited agreement that we've been working on with the state, between the state and the parish, for the parish to mow certain state right-of-ways within our parish. This agreement is not everything that I would like in the agreement. However, we didn't prepare it. It was prepared by the state, and it's uniform across several parishes. We're not the only parish that has an agreement like this, but it represents a very modest increase in the payment that the state is making to the parish for mowing state roads, and so it's not the extent of our cost. Our cost is more than this. They're basically $152,000. Our cost is probably a little over $200,000. But the needs of our citizen, I think, outweighs the difficulty of that I have related to that. We're currently having to mow areas that represent safety and welfare to the public now, primarily because of sight distance at intersections. So I need to proceed as quickly as possible and mow other areas with your concurrence. And based on that, I recommend approval of this agreement. I'd be glad to answer any questions that you may have.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Fontenot, second by Councilman Sheikh Snyder. Any discussion? Councilman Savoy.
Yeah, Mr. Bob, in relation to the old contract and the old road list, what's the difference between the old road list and this one that's presented to the council tonight?
I'm sorry, I can't tell you. I think the list is essentially the same, and I apologize for not knowing that. I do know that the increase between the old payment and the new payment is about $11,000 to $12,000. There's $11,000 to $12,000 increase.
Because I do know, looking at it real quickly, I do not see Highway 22 from 429 to the diversion canal. We've got 22 from LA 75 in Sorrento, where we used to cut from 429 to the diversion canal on 22.
Yes, the section of 22 is from LA 75 to Sorrento. And the state will mow and maintain the other section.
Anything else, Councilman Sutton?
No, sir, that's all.
Councilman Todd Lamb.
Yeah, Mr. Bob, I know it's been delayed on this contract, and just to avoid it in the future, I know we are July, and the grass is probably 5 or 6 foot tall, so if we have to go with the contract every year, maybe we need to see what caused the delay to be this long and move it, get ready for next year also.
Since I've been the Director of Public Works, I've been pushing for this contract, and it's my understanding that they were trying to develop a more uniform contract with all the parishes. And so this is the outcome of that. So I'm assuming that we will have this contract before us in a much earlier manner in subsequent years.
Appreciate that, Mr. Mark.
Any other discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Hearing none, motion passes.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes,
I just
ma'am.
want to remind everybody that we do meet this coming Tuesday, 6:30, or immediately after the utility committee. Everyone is invited to come. And you can view it on Channel 21 on eTel or Cox. Thank you, Rob Baker.
Thank you, Ms. Fonda. Agenda item number 9, Strategic Planning Committee, Chairman Kent Shakespeare. Ms. Shakespeare.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had a memorandum of understanding between Ascension Parish and the Ascension Parish Library Board for a formal border or survey that we had to do because we have dedicated funds going to the library, and they needed a memorandum of understanding.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
A motion.
Moved by Councilman Barriger, second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition? Hearing no opposition, motion passes. Thank you, Councilman Shakespeare. We'll move now to the general business part of our agenda. Agenda item number 10, Ascension Economic Development Corporation, the 6-month update. Parish President Ronnie Hughes and Tommy Kurtz, President and CEO of the Economic Development Corporation. Mr. Kurtz.
Good evening, Parish President Hughes, Chairman Valentine, and the members of the council. We wanted to give you a 6-month update of our activities of the Ascension Economic Development Corporation. In your packet is actually a summary of the presentation that I'll be giving. We were hoping to give it from here, but as I turned 40 this year, which I thought was old at one time, now it's very young, I'm going to go over there and give the presentation so I can see it. At least and more clearly. But in your packet is the presentation along with a summary of our projects and prospects along with benchmarks that the board had approved for this year on basically our programs for this year in regards to prospect visits and capital investment. Then on the left side of the packet is information about some of the marketing pieces we've done on the parish, including the mega sites and some of the retail attraction that we're trying to attract. So let me walk over here and start the presentation. Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, sir. Okay, one of the first, I think, presentations in here. So my thanks to Ozzy and Les in the group for setting this up, and Lance too. Like I said, 6-month update based on our activities. Some of the key operational highlights include 2 industrial announcements since March, both at Rubicon, one involving expansion in Huntsman, but also expansion with Kinder Morgan, a liquid bulk storage facility. We did an initial review of Ascension megasites, and it was narrowed down to 2, and we're moving forward on one of those megasites. We hosted a major call center prospect that was looking at the former FEMA facility in Gonzales, which now has been eliminated, even though we do have 2 other potential prospects looking at that facility. We assisted with workforce grants in coordination with Cabela's, which will be opening in the fall, basically on helping them with assistance with the Department of Labor on available grants and training programs. The Louisiana Bull Creation Center has received over $15,000 in grants from the state that we applied for packaging equipment to help some of our tenants there. We continue our retention calling program with our synchronous database, which I'll go into in a second, which actually covers some of the major business issues that came up in our visits in our business retention visits, and some expansion projects that came out of our visits with companies. AED staff has attended national trade shows in construction, retail, and chemical-related type industries to help attract more of that to the parish. We assisted with the recently released Baton Rouge Area Chamber Workforce Study, which was a groundbreaking study and basically discussing and making recommendations in regards to the workforce and the tightening of the workforce in the whole Baton Rouge region. We also worked for the development of the Ascension Fresh Market, Farmers Market at Lamar Dixon. Our organization was very much involved with Leadership Ascension, the Tourist Commission, and the Chamber. We have moved forward, and I'll get into that in a second, on our Business and Industrial Park project to develop a business and office park in the parish. We also began work on the fine and specialty downstream chemical project with BASF to go after downstream chemicals to co-locate on their property. And then our private foundation that was started after ADC was created has raised over $205,000 in private sector and other public monies to match the parish's contribution, and we've collected over $93,000 to date. Location announcements: Kinder Morgan, one that we worked very closely with, a liquid bulk storage facility at Rubicon, created 43 jobs with a $37 million capital investment. And then we worked last fall with Rubicon on their $100 million expansion. We've had 10 prospect visits so far to Ascension Parish. They include a biodiesel project, 2 liquid bulk storage facilities, an upscale theater, a biomass plant, a major retail development looking at Gonzales. I mentioned the Kinder Morgan project, a call center, which was the one looking at the FEMA facility, and a hotel. And some of the projects still pending include the biomass plant, a machine shop from last year we were still working with, an ethanol plant. We were actually working with 2 ethanol plants. One is still alive, and an upscale theater. And some of the projects that have eliminated Ascension include Riley Foods, which was looking at Donaldsonville for a manufacturing facility, decided to expand in Tennessee, the Gonzales Call Center, and a car dealership. For retail development, Edie Michelle had attended the International Council of Shopping Centers conference in Las Vegas, where we made various contacts with various retailers around the country. And one of the things that we'll be doing with that list is we belong to a regional database of available real estate listings and buildings and sites, and we are constantly sending that updated list of buildings and sites to realtors with these retailers so we can bring more retail to the parish. We responded to 13 requests for proposals. These are proposals that come in from the Baton Rouge Area Chamber, the Louisiana Department of Economic Development, and that directly into our office. And as you know, some have code names, obviously, to protect the confidentiality, but you can tell some include call centers, food, even textile, metal fabrication. So those are just some of the type of project names and type of projects that are looking at Ascension right now. These are some of the trade shows that we've attended and some of the ones that we will be doing over the next couple of months. They include the National Petroleum Refinery Association, International Builder Show for construction-related materials, shopping centers, chemical show, and the film market, and Coronet Global, which is a major site selection conference. Movie locations, on August 17th, I believe, there's a casting call, I think, next week, for The Last Waltz, the Teardrop Dime. They'll be filming here in Donaldsonville. It's about a $7 million movie. And so far, we've sent about 6 RFPs out this year. We've had 3 movie scout visits around the Ascension Parish area. And we still continue to work with the Bonnie and Clyde film, still trying to secure their $20 million in financing. The joke is maybe they should go rob a bank to get the money, but they are still working on it. If they do get the money, they would locate in Donaldsonville and set up their main office here. And we've been aggressively sending out emails to film producers that we met last year at one of the film shows. And if you go to the Ascension Economic Development Corporation website, we have over 600 pictures of the parish that we actually had a movie scout take and place on the website. So it's very easy when anytime we get an RFP now for a movie, we have locations from Donaldsonville to the Diversion Canal to Gonzales to Prairieville, all over the parish, that we can send those pictures out with information. And basically, also in the spring issue, Ascension Parish and Donaldsonville were actually featured in Louisiana Film and Video magazine as a good place to shoot movies. And that was actually the article there. On retention and expansion, we have a very aggressive retention and expansion program where we actually call on companies. We ask them to fill out a survey. We maintain the results in a database that allows us to aggregate information from the business community and Ascension Parish. We mentioned the Rubicon expansion that was beginning of this year. There's also another project, Project Green, a modernization of a local plant, which has not been announced yet, but is pending. And then also a steel support company in the parish with 40 jobs. And then we are working new this year, a local foundry we're working on an expansion, a major chemical plant expansion, $300 million expansion, and a potential gas plant operation in the parish. And we've had 9 retention visits since the beginning of this year and 35, and those are just some of the companies that we visited this year. Not this week, but the following, we'll be traveling with the Department of Economic Development and the Baton Rouge Area Chamber. We'll be calling on headquarters in Texas that have operations in Ascension. We have about 3 visits so far, both in Houston and Dallas, and we'll be updating them on the legislative session, the non-attainment issue that President Hughes had talked about, and then also the workforce issue and strategies going forward into the future. And I'm not going to go through all this. This is in y'all's packet, but these are basically some of the results from the companies and the type of companies, basically when they were established, and then basically this goes into their products. Are they emerging? I think probably last year sometime in front of Kent's committee, I think I gave same presentation. Numbers haven't changed that much, but it does go into a breakdown of where their products are going, their export sales. Probably the most interesting thing from a policy standpoint is basically the issues of workforce, recruiting people, and then evaluation of various support services in the parish. Police and fire were tops. She like that for tonight. And then lowest went to roads and planning. And once again, this is basically from February, March of last year till May of this year. But overall, 80% support Ascension as a place to do business. Very good, positive numbers, even with some of our challenges. And about 2/3 plan an expansion in 3 years. And from our work of meeting with these companies, over $400 million have expansions planned with about 200 new jobs from the retention visits. So you should always visit and work with your existing industry. And those are just some of the comments, positives and concerns about the parish. We won't go into all of them, but some of the ones you've probably heard before. Our food incubator has 8 active contracts signed. We have 5 active tenants that include Chef KD, our gumbo roux maker. Probably the one tenant that probably will be on the shelf first is a frozen espresso shot maker. That's actually taking frozen espresso shots and freezing them, and taking the espresso shots, freezing them, and we'll be selling them in stores around Baton Rouge. And he's ordered about $50-something thousand worth of equipment. So this guy's very serious. And so anyway, so he's in our kitchen right now. We have a barbecue sauce maker and Drake's Catering, which is the caterer for the LSU football games. And of course, the council, as you all know, you all approved an additional $39,000 last a couple meetings ago, and we have used that to assist in buying additional equipment and also marketing the incubator at the upcoming Louisiana Restaurant Association show, which will be in New Orleans next month. One of the other interesting projects that we're doing is that we have signed an agreement with Air Products, which is based here in Ascension, to develop a nitrogen flash freezer at the facility that will allow food companies and our food entrepreneurs to flash freeze food instead of doing the old ice and bag scenario. So this will be the first food incubator in the country that will have this flash freezing technology. And for the money that the parish gave us, we're going to apply for a state grant to buy the equipment permanently. So this will give our flash freezing equipment abilities at the food incubator in Gonzales, Louisiana. And we will be going for additional grants for the state's LED matching grant program starting next month. The Fresh Market at Lamar Dixon, farmers market there, we have the official grand opening May 26th. We have 18 vendor contracts that have been signed, and we have on an average day about 10 vendors with about 200 customers. And the most important thing about the Fresh Market from the Ascension Economic Development Corporation is that we've been able to basically help some of our tenants that are now wanting to sell at the farmers market. So this will give them an outlet for somebody who wants to take grandma's gumbo or whatever, or different types of food products and sell there. So we thought this was an excellent match with the market and with the food incubator at Lamar-Dixon. The Ascension Megasite project. The final 2 sites were selected in spring of this year. They were the Orange Grove, which is the 1,000 acres on the southern side of, or actually the eastern side of Ormet, and then Point Hummus, which we call Point Sunshine, which is 1,000 acres at the foot of the Sunshine Bridge here. We are in current negotiations with the owners of Point Hummus to purchase the property, which would become the first deep water megasite, certified megasite in the country here in Ascension Parish, which would give us an advantage over other communities, the fact that we have it with certified, which basically means that it's gone through all the process, all the analysis, you've done the environmental work, and you've got an option on the property. So depending on what happens in St. James, we're hoping to have the first quote-unquote certified megasite in the country, which will be marketed by us, the Baton Rouge Chamber, Louisiana Department of Economic Development, and the Port of Greater Baton Rouge when a large industrial project looks at this region. And we have received funds from those various entities also in getting the certification done. And we actually took an ad out in July's issue of Site Selection magazine, which is one of the major site selection magazines in the country. So there's Point Hummus, which we're marketing, calling it Point Sunshine, which we hope we'll get some interest from some site selection consultants or from some real estate developers, obviously on a major industrial project. We're also, in addition to doing the mega site, we've hired Thai America to look at the development of a business and office park in the parish. We were looking initially at 9 sites. We have narrowed down the sites to 3. We're not at liberty now to talk about those 3 sites. We're in current discussions with the owners of those properties to work with us. How that would work is that we would basically take those 3 sites and do a feasibility on those sites and take that information along with a feasibility study that will be done on the market here in the Baton Rouge region to look at what is the appropriate mix of industrial and office space in the parish, and take that and basically work with national park developers that may want to develop a business and office park, similar to what was done as industrialplex in Baton Rouge. So basically this would give us a dossier, I guess you could say, with these sites and with the information to market Ascension to develop a first-class business and office park, which would help diversify our economy. And those are the sites. Those are the various sites there. They're all along the I-10, and they're located between 30 and 22. One of the other projects that we're working on in partnership with BASF is our first pilot program. We hear a lot in the economic development community of downstream. We want to go after downstream industry. Well, we're really doing it here. BASF has supplied their various streams that are made at the plant. We're going to be taking those streams and working with SSA consultants out of Baton Rouge, which has done this before around the country, and look at what those streams could be made into, and then working with BASF officials to help co-market the plant and the land around the plant, and also those streams as feedstock for a project. And matter of fact, 2 major specialty chemical and downstream our conference is going to be in New Orleans next year, so we think this may be an opportunity for us to showcase BASF and these various streams at BASF in spring of next year. So we'll see how it goes with BASF. If it's successful, we may do it with some other plants in Ascension Parish. And other projects that we've been working on, we will be here July 9th, not here, but obviously in Gonzales, with LSU Division of Economic Development. We were contracted by the parish to do an economic impact study on Lamar-Dixon. So we'll be back doing that on July 19th with LSU officials. And those are our meeting dates at ADC, at our office. The next 2 for the rest of this year, they're quarterly. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Councilman Hillenbeck, question from Mr. Curtis.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question, Tommy. I just have one comment. On the third of the last page of the handout, of course, you have car dealerships listed under prospective visits. I just want to make you aware, in North Mississippi, city of Tupelo, which is where I grew up, twice a year they do a spring and a fall autorama, where all the car dealerships in northeast Mississippi participate. And they bring all the vehicles out to an area west of the airport where the furniture marts are. And I think it's very successful. It's a very successful event, and it's also very convenient for prospective car buyers. And that might be something you want to look at and coordinate with Lamar Dixon that would spur some economic development and also spur another event for Lamar Dixon.
Okay, sure.
It's very successful, and they sell quite a few automobiles when the prospective buyers can just walk parking lot to parking lot to parking lot. They don't have to drive all over Baton Rouge and beyond to seek out a vehicle. So.
On that particular project, we had a car dealership gentleman from the Midwest came in looking to potentially put a car dealership at the flea market, but never heard back. Never materialized. So.
Yeah, we obviously have the parking.
But there's a couple other ones, though, I understand, looking that we've got these inquiries from. So.
Right. Yeah, Autorama, I think, is what it's billed as, and it's a very successful event twice a year. So.
Those are all done by the car dealerships in the area?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They all participate. They all do quite well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Councilman Joseph.
Yes, Tommy, I looked on your list, and I see 4 projects that was listed for the Donaldsonville area. And out of those 4, 3 of them got dead on the side of them. Can you give me any input of why our sites, those sites was are failing in attracting those businesses?
It depends. I don't have the list in front of me. Actually, I do here. Hold on a second. Well, the Raleigh Foods project was because they had a facility already in Tennessee. The other thing was they were also concerned about even though being here in Donaldsonville, they were, I don't know what the costs were, but they were in a category wind area 2. I'm not in the insurance business, but that also scared them. But I think it was mainly the fact that they had an operation in Tennessee. On the other, which ones in particular?
Project Food Pro.
That's still alive.
It's still alive?
Project Food Pro is still alive. Project Empire, I think, was put on, one of these is on hold. It may be, let's see. Well, Geismar was eliminated. Donaldsonville is still alive for Project Empire, which it's food related. It's a state economic development project, so it's confidential. They have not told us who or what it is. And then Food Pro is still alive. So those are 2 still alive in Donaldsonville.
And the boat manufacturer?
Never heard back. That's another state project. A lot of times you'll get a lead from the state or even in us for that matter. And of course, it's like I'll tell you this today, economic development is like the Boy Scouts, always be prepared. So we have our sites ready to go. We submit them electronically. And a lot of times the state or BRAC or us will send information. A lot of times you'll send the information to them. You may never hear again from them. So it's just the nature of the business. And then I may get a call tomorrow from Project Food Pro. We're in town. We want to see the site tomorrow. So it is not a, I guess unlike in business where there's a little more certainty, but not always there. There's not always certainty in business either. It's a hit or miss scenario.
One more question. Infrastructure is a big problem with that information right there. We need more infrastructure on the west side of the road.
Yeah, I think it would help. I mean, y'all have a very good business industrial park, but having a rail spur, I think there's an effort to do that. And I know y'all are improving the water and sewer, so that would be a help in attracting. The other thing too is that in most cases manufacturers do want to be on the eastern side because of the interstate. It all has to do with interstate and population. But a lot of times the labor situation on here, actually, some of the research that we have, the labor scarcity isn't as bad on this side as it is on the East Bank, because you can pull from the home at Thibodeau Bayou area, in essence, more than you can obviously on the east side. So that's been a plus. That's one of the reasons why, at least if you've seen from the food-related manufacturing projects, that's why we've submitted the Donaldsonville site. And also you got John Folsom in your park, too, and that's a big plus. So.
Thank you very much.
Councilman Shakespeare.
Thank you. Tommy, since the legislative session is over, how do we stand now with the airport? At what junction are we on now?
Latest that I heard, of course, we were up there putting green cards in to support, but my understanding is that the money for its operation was approved, but that there was not any capital money approved for this year. The $400 million that was supposed to go, I think it was Roy Kazer's bill, I thought went into, at least the latest, now I haven't got the legislative scorecard since last Thursday, but that went into port projects. Took the money, which is not we need more money for our ports in the state. There's no doubt about it. But obviously not at the expense of the LAA, but I don't think it got the $300 million, $34 million that it was asking. So I don't know where. I've not talked to Glenda since the end of the session. So.
That's it, Ms. Shexner?
Yes, thank you.
Parish President wants to comment.
Ronnie,
I just got off the phone with Representative Krazare, and that bill passed the House, and then it was filibustered in the Senate and was not voted on. It died the last day, Thursday, for the Louisiana Transportation Center. And so, as Tommy just said, is correct. Some money, operational money was there. But as far as letting it become a mega site in the state mega site program, and actually putting some funding to it in this fiscal year, which began July 1st. That was not done. One senator basically along the northern part of the river parishes stopped that from happening.
Okay. Yes, Councilman Joseph.
Well, based on that comment, Tommy, can you, with the airport is still on the borderline, is the airport is hindering the West Bank on projects coming this way because we don't know where we at with it?
I haven't seen that. I will tell you though, when we began the initial analysis for the mega site, our mega site, large industry, one industry using that site, there was some concern working with the LEA officials that they didn't want a large project too close to where planes would be flying. So that's the only. And from a logistics standpoint, too, at least for our mega site, the closer to the interstate, the better, because of transportation issues. But I haven't, at least from any projects we've shown in Donaldsonville, that really has not really come up as an issue. It has not been a hindrance. Now, I think if you make the argument if the airport is coming or not, and is that tying up land development in that area, well, the answer is yes. I think we all know that. But from, let's say, our industrial projects with a couple hundred jobs, the airport has had no effect on any of that at all. The only issue may be down the road, would it take away any labor that I may need for my potential operation on this side of the river, just for labor, because labor is so scarce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions of Mr. Kurtz? Thank you so much,
Okay.
Tommy, for the
Thank you much. Sure, appreciate it.
update. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on now to agenda item number 11, acceptance of bids for renovations to the Abbey Carpet building located on LA Highway 44 for the 7th District Fire Department. Councilman Barrett.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the fire board's leadership and willingness to work, and also with 7th District working with the fire board, they've come to an agreement, it looks like, on cost for the fire department. They're ready to ask for it to go out for bid, so I offer a motion.
Second. Moved by Councilman Barriga, second by Councilman Todd Lamlett. Discussion. While before we go into discussion, I do have one speaker on this, Mr. Kerry Williams. Kerry?
Good evening. Thank you, Councilman George Ballantyne and Jerry Sabo. Good evening. My name is Kerry Williams, and I want to say the fire department is doing a good job across the river. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Any discussion? Councilman Sabo.
I just got a comment, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to extend gratitude and appreciation. I made the fire board meeting a couple of weeks ago. The fire board meeting, with this project coming in over budget, the fire board had to make some very tough decisions. They took some projects off of the table so that we could move forward with this project right here, which has been in the wings for about 7 years, from what I understand. I commend the fire board for looking at moving projects forward and putting some of their personal projects on side to get this particular project up and off the ground. So they worked very well coming up with the decision to move this project forward. I thank them for their hard work.
Any other discussion? Councilman Hillsman.
Yes, sir. What is the motion again? Councilman Bowers?
The motion was to accept the bids so that the fire department can move forward, fire board can move forward with the 7th District Fire.
Initially, I think we had, I believe it was $1 million that was budgeted for the project, and I understand it came in quite a few $100,000 above that. Are we?
It came in $1.4 million, Councilman. What Councilman Salvo was talking about, Councilman Hillsbeck, is the fact that they have actually put off a couple of renovations to Sorrento Fire Station and also to the Sandoval Fire Station so that they can complete this project. And those fire stations have agreed to do that for the time being, and that's why they're able to do them. They do have the money in their account.
Okay, so and I just wanted to have it verified from Chief Financial Officer Glenn LeBlanc. You're aware of the other departments holding off on projects to fund this? Not really? Okay. Is there anyone else from any other departments that's?
Council, Mr. Hillsback's got the floor. Anything else you want to say, Mr. Hillsback?
No.
Okay, Councilman Barry, do you want to make a comment?
No, that's all right.
Okay, any other discussion?
Just one question.
Councilman, excuse me, Parish
I
President.
see we have our chairman here. I just want to make sure now. Mr. John Benny, is the fire board united on this approach? Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilman Fontenot.
I just wanted to commend the board for allowing their volunteers to participate. I was at one of the meetings, and they allowed their volunteer firemen to participate in this decision and to give their input, and they're to be commended for that. And I would just like to encourage the public to become volunteers, because we're losing, we're growing as a parish, but we're not growing in volunteerism. And this is a very needed volunteer program because of what they do in the lives of people, because they are the first responders even when there's a health issue.
Any other discussion? Any opposition to the motion? Hearing no opposition, the motion passes. We'll move now to agenda item number 12 under planning and zoning recommendations. First one up is to accept or deny Dutchtown Gardens small plan unit development, a SPUD located on the west side of LA Highway 73, north of and adjacent to Dutchtown High School for Kodiak Companies LLC by the SJB Group. We have Eric Poche and also Mr. Kelly Seals that will answer any questions. I think Mr. Poche has a statement to start off with. Mr. Poche, I discovered, or at least you informed me, that there may be some wording within what we have that could possibly...
Yes, that's possible. I wanted to bring to your
Councilman, if
attention...
you will look, you have been handed a small SPUD description, and we'll ask Mr. Poche to go over that before we get into further discussion.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for seeing us this evening. Many of you are very familiar with this project. We've been working on it for probably the last 10 or 11 months. It is a property directly north of Dutchtown High School, comprising about a little over 18 acres. And we have gone through planning and zoning and would like for you to accept their recommendation of approval tonight. We have basically 47 single-family lots on 15 point some odd acres, which equals a density of 3 units to the acre, which is what the area as medium-intensity residential is zoned for now, as well as 3 commercial lots coming off of Louisiana Highway 73. There is also a property of just over 1 acre that the developers have designated to be donated to the Ascension Parish for the purposes of a future fire station if and when that becomes necessary. Through our dealings with the school board, we have gotten agreements with them, number one, to rescind an existing 50-foot servitude of passage that runs along the driveway. Their portion of their driveway is actually on the developer's property, and we're going to rescind that servitude of passage in exchange for a servitude to come into the fire station property in the future if a fire station is built there for ingress and egress, as well as agreements for a drainage servitude so that we can pipe our sewer to John's Bayou to the west, and also, let's see, school board. I think that's it for the school board. Let's see. This is going to be a gated and fenced community. We're going to have walking paths, open space, which is in excess of what the parish requires for a spud of this size. The commercial that we're going to have is going to be a combination of light, retail, office activity, medical, dental type offices. There will be a homeowners association with deed restrictions. We will set landscape standards that the residents will have to follow. And as well as the homeowners association will have a representative of the commercial property owners association on that board, so they will have a voice in that as well. We have done traffic study, showed no level of service changes in any of the legs studied or any of the intersections studied, and the drainage impact study was done by SJB Group and showed no increase in post-development discharge. You will see on page 9, I have listed the items that were part of the motion made at the Planning and Zoning meeting a couple of weeks ago. And number 1, it was a request in the motion by Mr. Julio Dumas that the list of uses be amended to eliminate service stations. The developers have agreed to do this and will do that. Donate the funds to cover traffic impact. Addressing the traffic impact to Ascension Parish be dedicated for road improvements at the discretion of the Department of Public Works. The developer has made a voluntary contribution to the parish, although it was not required, to mitigate some of the traffic impact. Although it is not a huge development, we realize that there would be some traffic impact, so the developer has voluntarily agreed to donate these funds to the parish. The motion that Mr. Dumas made did not specify that it was for use exclusively on Highway 73 or for Highway 73 improvements at the discretion of DPW. And I spoke with Mr. Dumas and expressed my concern, and he said that that was his intention to do that. It was just inadvertently left out when he made his motion. That the dedication of Tract D to Ascension Parish for the purpose of potential fire station be done in a manner that is acceptable to Ascension Parish. The developers have committed to this donation and will conclude the transaction in a manner that is acceptable to the parish. Along with this donation, the donated tract will, until such time as the fire department wishes to build a station there, be maintained by the developer or homeowners association as open space for the development. In other words, if it's going to be open space for the development, if the fire station never builds anything there, then it will remain in perpetuity. It will belong to the parish, and it will be open space for the users of the neighborhood. Dedication along the servitude, along the south property line that is stipulated in the draft agreement be done. You should have in your packets agreements that have been executed and signed by the developer and the Ascension Parish School Board. Number 5, that we provide written documentation from the school board that the sheet flow from the development across school board property is permitted and acceptable by the Ascension Parish School Board. The following page is a letter signed by Mr. Sanji to that effect that we have obtained from him. And number 6 being exception of Tract D, parcel of land being donated to Ascension Parish, a continuous fence, the entire length of the property be built concurrent with the development of the subdivision rather than concurrent with the residential development. The developers will build a fence along the boundary, which is, I think, what the school board is desiring to keep, any of the school children from going off the property. We'll build a fence along the property of Dishtown High School to the west along at the ball field and directly north of the driveway to a point approximately 125 feet from Highway 73 to allow visual access for persons traveling north on 73 to whatever commercial property fronts on LA 73 right there. And the point that Chairman Valentine was referring to when we submitted this to Planning and Zoning, it wasn't realized till afterwards that through a mistake of SJB Group, or in particular myself, in wording only the amount of square footage that the developer desired to be in the commercial area was to be 35,000 square feet as opposed to the 17,000 some odd square feet we listed. We also, and we would hope that you would approve it with this condition. And I can tell you that we have had a traffic study revised that does show that even with the increase in commercial square footage, there is no increase or degradation of level of service at any of the intersections. And I do have a copy of that here if you want a copy of it or if you'd like to take a look at it.
Yes, any discussion? And that was one thing I had pointed out that is actually not in your packet, the 17,000 and the 35,000. I could not find that anywhere within his. You just have one copy, Eric? I did not see it in the presentation. That's why I was wondering that you gave me.
I don't think. I think it was on the package. I don't have it in this. This was an outline of my presentation. The plan. I'm not sure if you have a plan in there that shows that or not.
We don't, and that was one of the things.
In our packet, Mr. Valentine, I believe it actually shows.
Okay.
I believe
What
it's
page
in
is
the SPUD packet. And I'm Kelly Sills. I'm the developer of this project. But it's on a table that lists the square footage allowed.
Right.
It says 17,000. I needed to say 35,000. And that's what I'm really requesting
Yeah,
on there.
says
It's some kind of package y'all got from the Planning Commission.
Yeah. In our packet is
I
listed.
got you. It's in the packet, but then on what you was handed out previous, it's right here, right on the side. Okay?
Yeah, that's it.
I just didn't want somebody to see that discrepancy and question
Oh, okay.
that. I want to make sure it's clarified.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes,
I
sir.
offer a motion to accept this SPUD, Planning and Zoning's recommendation with the stipulations made by the developer on page 9 of his packet to be entered into that also, to make sure Mr. Dumas's comments and everything is included.
Moved by Councilman Barrett, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Discussion. Councilman Salvador.
I got one question. Help me out on, and I may need my legal to answer this. As far as I see, you got it as a gated and fenced community. From a liability standpoint, as far as police protection, emergency crews being able to get in that, is this a liability, Ricky, or y'all may be able to help me out, but I'm not sure how that stands as far as being gated. What does that mean?
Well, the residential section is gated, but we would have to make accommodations for emergency fire and police access should the need arise, yes.
They used to give them access codes.
Yeah.
They'll give the police and fire access codes. The only thing that comes up legally is a gated community. They're not public streets. You cannot gate off and restrict access to public streets.
Right.
As long as they're purely private, they're responsible for the maintenance of them. They take the liability if there's an accident on them. Parish will have nothing to do with those streets. They just can't. You can't spend. We can never take over those streets with that gate on.
Okay, as long as, that's what I wasn't clear as far as how we were going to protect the citizens inside. But if you give them the code, okay, that's fine.
Right.
The few that we have, I think is how they are, Chairman Salvador.
Okay.
And now the gates, when they hit their sirens, they open.
All right.
Okay, Councilman Hillsman.
Yes, I'd like, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like Mr. Sigler to come to the mic and like to have his comments on going from what the Planning and Zoning Commission approved, 17,000 commercial, going to now 35,000. Does that present any kind of problem for this particular development? Are we in violation of anything in place? Can you comment on that, Mr. Sigler? Thank you.
Well, I have not actually seen the change, 35,000 square foot versus 17,000. The SPUD up to that point is pretty unremarkable. Went through with, you have a list of the agreed to changes from what was originally introduced. I haven't seen the actual plat and of the revised 35,000 to 17,000, but outside of that, no, we didn't have a problem.
Any other comments from Councilman
I mean, it's
Hillsman?
basically a wording only.
And the reality is on a SPUD, as with a PUD, the council can make a decision, and whatever decisions it wishes to do or whatever agreements it wants to make, it can execute those.
And
That's right. You can't apply.
This is the part. I've done a lot of these in other parishes. This is, and just to kind of give you a difficulty from my standpoint as a developer, this never even came before me because I knew that I was zoning approximately 2.6 acres of this tract commercial. I didn't realize the parish had also a secondary requirement for me or my organization to commit to a certain maximum or minimum square footage that we would allow on this property. Because my intent is to have it zoned commercial, and whatever the best business use of the commercial property at the time is what I would anticipate the property being finally developed as. So when I did at 4:30 today, they called and let me know that we had a problem with this issue. I do need 35,000 square feet maximum. I think it probably would be less potentially, but I don't want to not be able to sell one of these lots to a client because of some outside restriction that was there that I didn't realize. And so I'm asking for your support on this.
Just one comment. I believe we've turned down similar requests in the past. Of course, I see Mr. Lance Brock now working with the GIS department, and I'd just like for us to remain consistent in our decisions and try to treat everyone the same. And if the Planning and Zoning Commission approved with 17,000, I think we should maybe just look at putting it on hold for a couple of weeks and trying to, because I believe there is something in place that does prohibit this. And maybe Lance would want to comment on this. I realize he's operating the camera tonight, and I hate to put him on the spot. Mr. Valentine, would it be okay to ask Mr. Brock to comment?
If Mr. Brock wants to comment on it, he's welcome to comment.
Yeah.
And look, this is Lance. Feel free if you want to. If you don't want to, you don't have to. I mean, what I'm a little upset about the fact that we're not on the ball here to start off with, and right now I don't really feel comfortable about all this to start off with, because I was told before this meeting, 10 minutes before this meeting, that there was a clerical type error. Now I'm hearing that we're actually asking for more retail space, and that does bother me, I'll be honest with you. So if there is something that this council needs to know that will clarify this tonight, I would like for you to share it with us. If it's not, then you don't have to. That's up to you.
I would guess one thing I would think of is when you increase it to that much is that you're going to have to add that much parking. So when you add that much more square footage, your parking requirements are going to be more. So the thing is that you have to make sure that if they're asking for more square footage for the parking, that there's enough room for them to put the parking.
And that's correct. You got to have the space to do that. Mr. Ziegler, you admitted you don't know too much about this particular project.
No,
so I mean,
we haven't actually seen this increase before. When it came through with 17,500. Routine deal is you check to see is there enough parking space for that number of square feet. There's unquestionably enough parking space for that number of square feet. Now, the fact that you permit 35,000, if you were to permit the 35,000 square foot increase, would not change our other regulations that say you've got to have X number of parking spaces for the kind of business going in there, so that you would have some control. I will admit that 35,000, doubling the amount of commercial space in that size piece of property, we probably need to take another look at it. It's close.
I'd like to offer a substitute motion that we do.
Hang on just a second. Okay. Hold on just a second. Mr. Berger, you got something you want to share?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Keep in mind, we're not designing actual buildings and parking spots here. We are rezoning a piece of property, allowing a certain amount of commercial being rezoned, 2.6 acres or whatever it may be, and also a definite plat for residential. We're not designing a commercial park here. All we're doing is rezoning, or allowing, not rezoning, but allowing this piece of property to be called commercial. So we're not designing a parking lot, and we do have restrictions in place that say if you have this much square footage, you have to have this many parking spots. So let's not confuse the issues here. All we're doing is allowing this commercial property to be zoned commercial.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I say something
O'Shea.
real quick? The thing about it is, we wanted to go around the same amount, or a little bit more than the crossroad commercial, but it's still less than the mixed-use maximum that you would be allowed, number one. Number two, we're limiting our building height to 35 feet, so there's only so many square feet you're going to be able to put in this thing and still have the amount of parking, open space, and whatnot. Basically, what we're asking for is a maximum limit, and that's not to say it may be 17, it may be 20, it may be 22,000, but the developer does not want to limit himself in the event that there's a possibility that this can happen.
Okay. Mr. Ziegler, for the information to the council, the fact that if we would approve the 35, repeat what you said about our parking guidelines, they still have to come in play.
Regardless of what you approve tonight, we still have building regulations that will require, depending on the kind of business, X number of parking spaces per square foot, X number of restrooms. We have all these other regulations that control what takes place on that property. So I'm not worried necessarily about there not being enough parking, because there's a point at which our parking regulations will limit the size of the building.
Correct. Okay. All right. Ms. Fontenot.
Did we not get this in our package? Is this not from our planning and zoning department?
Correct. Everything you've
Yes,
got.
ma'am. That is
Everything you've got.
The land use here says 35,000.
light commercial.
Light commercial. Then if you go down the phasing level table, it says phase 1, light commercial retail, 17,108. Then phase 3, light commercial retail, 17,892, which adds up to 35,000 again. So undoubtedly, if this is coming from planning and zoning, this is what was passed through the commission, was it not?
You understand what she's looking at?
I think that sheet was resubmitted when they figured out there was an issue.
That's not the same one.
And
Okay, I got a problem with this now. We're getting information here. We're getting information that says to accept or deny, this went through planning and zoning. Okay, now you're telling me we got a piece of paper that's on here that stipulates the 35,000 that didn't go in front of planning and zoning. You just made me aware of that. Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't know.
Okay.
But the 17,000 was never even raised at planning and zoning, because I guess the only thing, when you say we should have been maybe more prepared, I agree, but we have had at least 12 different plans of this property, and all I can do is offer my apology, and it's a small table on a final development plan, and this is the first spud, and all I can ask is to correct it before it becomes a problem.
Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Shakespeare.
Ron, this goes back to planning for final plat.
Yes, it's got. Well, it comes back through us for your construction.
Yes. Well, this is a spud.
Right.
And it's different from a PUD, because I have a PUD coming up too. And this is part of the confusion. The SPUD final development plan, as well as the concept plan, were approved at the Planning Commission. And tonight, I'm asking for y'all to approve both of those. When we do go for our construction plans, they review all those. When we get our final plat, they are reviewed again. However, these parameters that are approved tonight are final.
And
I will say
that's all I'm trying to say is we're just giving them some parameters to work by, and they're going to take our existing building codes, land use codes, and everything that fit to those parameters, and take it, and they have to develop within there. We could be approving 100,000 square feet, and they have to fit that within those 2.6 acres. It doesn't matter. And so I think this is something that we're creating something that's really not as big an issue as what it really is. The 2.6 acres is what matters that we're rezoning. They have to fit those stipulations within our existing building codes and regulations, rules, and everything that we have to follow. If they can get 35,000 square feet of commercial with all the parking and all the regulations, fine. If they can't, and if they only can use 17,000, that's fine. So they're limited as to what we already have existing, and our people are protected with that. And I want to make sure everybody knows that, and it's going to be carried on from there. So
The only real concern that raised at the workshops or at the council meeting in terms of commercial was, what size is it? It's 2.6 acres. And there was some concern about the kind of businesses that could go in there, and there, as you know, there's some stipulations that we put on there about what kind of businesses we'd like to see there and what not.
yes. So
Okay, all right. Ms. Fonda, another comment?
Well, I kind of agree with Mr. Shakespeare. I mean, we're approving in this 47 lots. Obviously, they can't just go put any size house on the lot. They have to meet some kind of criteria.
And as well with the commercial part, because it is designated on the plat, so.
No problem.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hillsback, did you want to offer something?
Yeah, just one other comment. I'm gonna vote no. Simply, I don't like last minute changes, and I think 73 is a highly congested area with the high school and everything else. The other commercial development already in that area, and I just feel like that all these issues should be worked out, and whatever's approved by planning and zoning, that's the way it should come to us in final form. So I would urge my colleagues to either reject it or to make a motion, send it back to planning and zoning, and let's work out all of the small details and fine print and changes there, and then do it correctly.
Any other comments? Any other discussion?
They want to point out one other thing that Lance reminded me of, and that is, no matter what they build, they still have to meet their open space requirements under the contract, so that's another thing that's going to limit what they can do commercially.
Any other discussion? Any opposition to the motion besides Mr. Hillsback? Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move now to the introduction of ordinances. Agenda item number 13, introduction of an ordinance to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from conservation to business park for zoning review ID 1708.07 for Daystar Investment and Track LJG located on the east side of Highway 73, approximately 5,000 feet north of LA Highway 30.
Motion.
Motion by Councilman Savoy, second by Councilman Todd Lambert to introduce. Any discussion? Any opposition? The ordinance is introduced. Agenda item number 14, introduction of an ordinance adopting the millage rates for the tax year 2007.
Motion introduced.
Motion by Councilman Savoy,
Second.
second by Councilman Oliver Joseph. Any discussion? Any opposition? The ordinance is introduced. Agenda item number 15, introduction of an ordinance to amend Section 22-30 of the Ascension Parish Code of Ordinance to add as an additional no-wake zone on the diversion canal 300 feet up current on diversion canal the public accessible boat dock of the Marina Highlands Restaurant or the current name establishment, and 300 feet down current from the public accessible boat dock of the Pettit River.
So motion.
Moved by Councilman Scheck-Snyder to introduce, and second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition? So moved. We'll move now to the public hearings and ordinances. Agenda item number 16, public hearing to consider an ordinance amending the ordinance adopted by the Ascension Parish Council on February the 2nd, 2006, transferring 2 international 6-yard dump trucks to correct this ordinance to insert the correct vehicle identification number in that transaction. Mr. Bouquois. You're not going to get me this week.
Ordinance. Purpose to amend the ordinance adopted by the Ascension Parish Council on February 2nd, 2006, transferring 2 international 6-yard dump trucks to correct this ordinance to insert the correct vehicle identification number in that transaction. Whereas the Parish of Ascension, through the Ascension Parish Council in the lawful session, passed an ordinance on the 2nd day of February 2006 authorizing the conveyance of 2 international 6-yard dump trucks. Whereas the original ordinance provided that one was a 1997 International 6-yard dump truck bearing vehicle identification number 1HT SCA BR7VH 491230, and one 1999 International 6-yard dump pickup bearing vehicle identification number 1HT SCA BR82H 552354. Both of these vehicles were transferred to the City of Donaldsonville under the terms and conditions set forth in the cooperative agreement attached to that document. Whereas one of the vehicles had the incorrect identification number, and the vehicle identification number should have read 1HT-SCA BR82H 552355. Now is the intent of the Ascension Parish Council as governing authority in and for the Parish of Ascension to correct that error. Be it ordained that the Ascension Parish Council does hereby authorize the sale, conveyance, and transfer of all right, title, and interest in one 1999 International 6-yard dump truck bearing identification number 1HT SCA BR82H 552355 to the City of Donaldsonville as is, and without warranty of any kind for the terms and conditions set forth in the cooperative agreement attached to that document made a part hereof.
Motion to open public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Todd Lambert to open the public hearing, second by Councilman Barriga. Anyone wishing to speak on this public hearing, please approach our Secretary, Ms. Patterson, and sign in, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Seeing no one, Councilman Hillensbeck motions to close, second by Councilman Oliver Joseph. Any opposition to closing the public hearing? None? Public hearing is now closed. We'll move now to agenda item number 17.
Move the ordinance, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilman Shakespeare, second by Councilman Hillensbeck. Any discussion? Any opposition? So moved. Agenda item number 18, public hearing to consider an ordinance revoking a 10-foot servitude along southern property line of track A-3-A, 15-foot servitude located along the northern boundary of track A-3-A, 35-foot drainage servitude traversing the southern portion of track A-3-B and the tip of lot SLL-1 for P&W Industries Incorporated property. Mr. Bouquard.
Ordinance. Purpose, to revoke the 10-foot servitude located on the southern boundary of track A-3-A, the 15-foot servitude located on the northern boundary of track A-3-A, and the 35-foot drainage servitude that traverses the southern end of track A-3-B and the northern end of lot SLL-1, as shown on the map entitled Map Showing Survey and Partial Topographic Survey of track A-3-A, track A-3-B, and lot SLL-1 of the P&W Industries, Inc. property located in Section 18, Township 9 South, R-3-E, Southeast Land District, east of the Mississippi River, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, for Larry P. Moran Construction Company, LLC. Be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Council as the governing authority for the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, in lawful session, hereby revoke that portion of the servitude designated as the 10-foot servitude located on the southern boundary of track A-3-A, the 15-foot servitude located on the northern boundary of track A-3-A, and the 35-foot drainage servitude that traverses the southern end of track A-3-B and the northern end of lot SLL-1, as shown on the aforementioned map prepared by David L. Patterson, PLS, dated March 21st, 2006. The revocation as defined above, becoming effective upon the filing of the final plat for Driftwood Estate subdivision with the Ascension Parish Clerk of Court. The ditch in the existing 35-foot drainage servitude shall be relocated to the rear of lots 14 through 22, and a new servitude shall be dedicated on the Driftwood Estate subdivision final plat. All other public servitudes as may affect the subject property are hereby reserved.
Motion open public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilman Barrett to open the public hearing, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any opposition to the public hearing? The public hearing is now open. Anyone wishing to speak on the public hearing, please approach Secretary Ms. Patterson to sign in. You'll have 3 minutes to speak on this agenda item.
Motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing no one, Councilman Barrett moves to close the public hearing, second by Councilman Shakespeare. Or Councilman Joseph, excuse me. Anyone wishing not to close the public hearing? The public hearing is now closed.
Move the ordinance, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Councilman Barriga moves the ordinance, second by Councilman Todd Lambert. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion. Any opposition? No opposition. Motion passes. Move now to agenda item number 20, public hearing to consider an ordinance to revoke 15-foot drainage and utility servitude shown on tract of land designated lots 18, 19, 20, and 28 of Stevens Estates, as shown on the map entitled Stevens Estates Subdivision. Mr. Buqua.
Ordinance purpose to revoke the 15-foot drainage and utility servitude shown on a tract of land designated as lots 18, 19, 20, and 28 of Stevens Estates, as shown on a map entitled Stevens Estates Subdivision, located in Section 27, Township 9 South, Range 2 East, Ascension Parish. Be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Council as the governing body for the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, in lawful session, hereby revoke that portion of the servitude as 15-foot drainage and utility servitude located on lots 18, 19, 20, and 28, shown on the map prepared by William C. Monroe, RLS. All other public servitude as may affect the subject property are hereby reserved.
Motion open the public hearing.
Councilman Savoy moves to open the public hearing, second by Councilman Dempsey Lambert. Anybody opposed in public hearing? The public hearing is now open. Please approach our Secretary, Ms. Patterson, and sign in if you would like to speak on this public hearing.
Motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
Seeing no one, Councilman Todd Lambert moves to close the public hearing, second by Councilman Barriga. Anyone wishing not to close the public hearing? Public hearing is now closed.
Move the ordinance, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Councilman Barriga has moved the ordinance. Councilman Todd Lambert is second. Any discussion? Any opposition? The ordinance is approved. Move now to agenda item number 22, public hearing to consider an ordinance revoking a portion of a rear public servitude and rededicate said servitude shown on these certain tracts or parcels of land designated as lots 220 and 221, the estates of Manchac Harbor, formerly known as Manchac Harbor Fourth Filing, as shown on the Exhibit A and Exhibit B, located in Section 45, T8S-R3E for Manchac Harbor Partners, LLC. Mr. Buqua.
Ordinance purpose to revoke a portion of a rear public servitude and rededicate said servitude shown on those certain tracts or parcels of land designated as lots 220 and 221, the estates at Manchac Harbor, formerly known as Manchac Harbor Fourth Filing, as shown on the attached plats entitled Exhibit A and Exhibit B, located in Section 45, Township 9 South, Range 3 East, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, for Manchac Harbor Partners, LLC. Be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Council as the governing body for the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, in lawful session, hereby revokes and rededicates that portion of the public servitude designated as existing servitude located in the rear of lots 220 and 221, as shown in the aforementioned exhibits prepared by Lester A. McLean, Jr., professional surveyor. All
Motion
other
open.
public servitudes as may affect the subject property are hereby reserved.
Motion open the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Barriga moves to open the public hearing, second by Councilman Savoy. Any objection to open the public hearing? The public hearing is now open. Please approach the Secretary, Ms. Patterson, sign in. You'll have 3 minutes to speak on this public hearing.
Move to close.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Shakespeare to close the public hearing, second by Councilwoman Fontenot. Any opposition to closing the public hearing? The public hearing is now closed. We'll move now to agenda item number 23.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilman Todd Lambert, second by Councilwoman Fontenot. Any discussion on the ordinance? Any opposition? The ordinance is so approved. Move now to agenda item number 24, public hearing to consider an ordinance revoking an existing 15-foot servitude on tract A-1 on the Maxim Properties, LLC property situated in the northwest one quarter of Section 21 T9S R3E SED containing 1.83 acres. Mr. Buqua.
Ordinance purpose to revoke an existing 15-foot servitude on tract A-1 of the Maxim Properties, LLC property situated in the northwest quarter of Section 21, Township 9 South, Range 3 East, SED, east of the Mississippi River, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, containing 1.83 acres. Be it ordained by the Ascension Parish Council as the governing authority for the Parish of Ascension, State of Louisiana, in lawful session hereby revokes the 15-foot servitude on tract A-1 of the Maxim Properties, LLC property situated in the northwest quarter of Section 21, Township 9 South, Range 3 East, SED, east of the Mississippi River, Ascension Parish, Louisiana, containing 1.83 acres. All other servitudes of record are hereby reserved.
Motion to open the public hearing, Mr. Chairman.
Councilman Barriga moves to open the public hearing, second by Councilman Savoy. Anyone opposed in the public hearing? Public hearing is now open. Please approach the Secretary, Ms. Patterson, and you will have 3 minutes to speak on the public hearing.
Motion to close, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilman Todd Lambert to close, second by Councilman Savoy. Any discussion on closing? Public hearing is now closed. Number 25, the ordinance. Councilman Berger moves the ordinance, second by Councilman Savoy. Any discussion on the ordinance? No discussion. Ordinance is, any opposition to the ordinance? No opposition. The ordinance is now passed. Move now to agenda item number 26, an executive
Motion to
session
go
with
into
legal
executive
counsel
session, Mr. Chairman.
Renee Poirier versus Ronald Stevens. Moved by Councilman Berger, second by Councilman Todd Lambert to go into executive session. Any opposed? We'll move into executive session.
Motion, we reconvene, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Savoy, reconvene, second by Councilman Todd Lambert, reconvene out of executive session into regular session.
Make the motion that we pay the judgment.
Motion by Mr. Oliver Joseph to pay the judgment dealing with Renee Poirier versus Ronald Stevens, second by Councilman Nancy Lambert. Any discussion? Any opposition?
I object.
Mr. Hillensbeck objects.
Motion adjourned,
passed.
Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Councilman Baggett to adjourn, second by Councilman Shea Snyder. Council stands in adjournment. Thank you.